Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Hamster's Hobby Hang. Thanks for being here. We got a special show. We have our first guest. Here with us today, we have Jeff from GhosTiny Brushes, now on Kickstarter. And we're happy you're here, Jeff. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
So, yeah, if you guys have any questions about, Chris just put the link in the chat. Any questions about these brushes and about GhosTiny? And let's see, you said you also stream on YouTube. And what's the name of your channel again?
RedBeardBoss.
RedBeardBoss.
I
Sweet.
I do some painting streams and then just some like general gaming content for like Warhammer type stuff.
Love it. Well, we typically start off just showing off what the heck we're cracking on the stream today, what we're working on. So what do you got there, Jeff?
This is a cockatrice from Massive Darkness.
Oh,
I'm just
sweet.
gonna be hopefully trying to finish it in the 2 hours.
Yeah.
We stream. Try to get it completely looking good.
Cool. And I already mentioned to you, but everyone in the chat, I love this skull GW wash stand.
Oh yeah, this is the Necro paint pot holder from the Kickstarter.
Oh, awesome.
Or some of the plugins.
Great.
Nice.
All right, Toby, what do you got today?
I'm just practicing some 3D modeling. I have just getting the feel for it again. I did it a long time ago, and then haven't since everything got busy. Kickstarter and then other stuff came up. I haven't been using it for.
Sweet.
The program is just confusing, so I need to relearn it again.
Is this in ZBrush?
Yeah, ZBrush.
Oh, awesome.
I might try Maya, but what we had it was ZBrush, so I might play around with that. Yeah.
Awesome.
I
Now,
just completely forgot everything, so I'm like started from scratch essentially.
well, I can tell you this: you know more than me.
At this point, I'm not sure.
Not-
Everything is counterintuitive here, I feel.
Sure. Well, Chris is start trying something. The biggest thing you've tried, right? Biggest model.
Yeah, it's this is definitely not getting done today. I used my airbrush for the first time about a half hour before the stream to base the frog hemoth from Reaper, and so I just based that, and airbrushes easier than I expected.
Yes, I'm so excited you tried it.
Yeah, so I did that, and I'm gonna try. I'm actually not sure what paint scheme I want to go for it yet. I don't think I want to do the standard green. I don't know if I'm gonna go for like a poison dart frog thing or what.
Cool.
But I'm gonna think about that while I do the base first, and then I think once I have the base done, I think I'm gonna go ahead and just assemble the whole thing. Well, I guess the only part that might be hard to get to would be the underside of the frog hemoth. Outside of that, but like all the tentacles and stuff, it's not like holding a weapon close to the chest or anything, so I'm not terribly worried about assembling it before painting. But yeah, so I'll probably be looking at chat for like recommendations on like color schemes for the frog too. But I know what I want to do with the base, so like I'm just gonna do that first.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, also shout out to Chris for getting Jeff all set up and on the show. So it's pretty relaxed here. I don't want to talk your ear off, but I'm definitely interested in these brushes. We were lucky enough to get a little sample, so I'm excited to try some of these out. Some of you might have seen last time I was going to detail a different miniature, but I decided to set something bigger up because I got some of these great like stippling and dry brush sort of brushes I wanted to try out. So I'm working on I think this is actually, you know what? This is from a Kickstarter that Drew Williams that sculpted a lot of our miniatures. Sculpted this ogre for Nightmare Games Kickstarter. Kind of in the old world Empire style. And so he did some of these ogres in that style. Yeah.
If you guys remember, we had him on the anvil back near the end of last year, I think.
Oh, nice.
The end of last year, beginning of this year, we had him on, and he showed us like he does like the trolls with like the big big bulbous noses, and just very like more fairy tale driven sculpts there, like on his own time. He's a really good monster sculptor though.
I really like his sculpts.
Yeah.
Like he did like Sassul and stuff. The Basilisk.
He did Sassul?
Yeah, he did Sassul. True.
Nice. Yeah. That's right. He did the Basilisk, and he did the Basilisk like super last minute. Too.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, Sassul was the same thing as well. Like we're like a week away from the end of the Kickstarter. It's like we need a final boss. Hey, we have this guy who's sitting there. Can you make him standing up? And he like in like 3 days. Like, does this look good? Like,
I genuinely always assumed that Sassul was like one of the first concepts planned for the Kickstarter because having the whole shrine of Sassul and everything, it made it seem like that was on purpose.
Yeah, we just had the sitting one, and we decided we needed a final boss.
Huh.
Because the sitting one was like a reptile version of the first edition cover, you know, the statue.
That's sweet.
That holding flame with the gem eyes.
Yeah, I had no idea. I assumed that Sassul was like from the beginning, like an integral part of that campaign, because Sassul is one of the coolest things to come out of it. I think. Like I love the temple. I love like the jade and all that.
Well, weirdly, also for Dungeon of Doom, until like a week before the Kickstarter, we were not planning to do encounters.
Huh.
But like we had to like totally redo everything because we didn't want to just sell by like increasing piece quantity for pledges.
That's fascinating, actually.
It was fun doing long hours with me trying to figure out like good setups for encounters.
Yeah, I had no idea. That's a thing that I thought was always the plan from the beginning. Huh. So, speaking of Kickstarters, Jeff, you've done... So, GhosTiny is just the name of this line of brushes that you're kickstarting. The Ghost is like the overall name, right? And you've done Kickstarters in the past?
Yeah, this is my third Kickstarter this year.
Nice.
And so the other ones were just the Ghost line, and then I just wanted a name for basically the detail set.
GhosTiny is a really good name.
And
like combining the T's and everything.
I wanted Ghost Mini, but I could find that on Google in other places in the world, and I never could find GhosTiny, so I took that name.
Look, portmanteaus.
But I felt like
great.
Ghost Mini fit.
Portmanteaus are great. Like it's a good name. Like that's, I think it rolls off the tongue pretty well. It like has a clever little spelling trick to it that I think makes it easy to remember. Man, so I've got like a lot of questions just in general, like because we make a lot of stuff at Dwarven Forge, but we don't make we're not in studio crafting brushes, so like that entire process just seems foreign to me. Like how you even go about, like what do you even think about when you're trying to figure out like what would make a good brush, like.
Yeah, I'm interested in that too. Like, what questions do you even ask yourself about, like, what are the factors of a brush that you're deciding on?
I think I've been painting for quite a while, and I used to do oil painting. So I used to go to college for that and whatnot. And it kind of just goes down to ordering a lot of samples from a lot of different factories and contacting companies to see what they got, and then you just kind of patchwork it together to what you want. So, like stiffness of the hair, handles, materials, things like that. And then I wanted to be cheaper than wanted to be cheaper than basically every other paintbrush you'll find in a game store. So
yeah, your brushes are a really good deal. That's one of the things I noticed is those brushes are like, that's a really good deal. Like you can get a lot of brushes for very little.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, well, they're not as cheap as Walmart." And
Well,
like,
okay,
well,
but...
but like if that's your bar, like
yeah, it's like, well, I'm one guy.
yeah,
Walmart's the biggest retailer in the world, or whatever.
If you were able to bulk order those in the hundreds of thousands and trust that you would sell them out within the month, like that'd be one thing. But like,
I don't think I've ever seen
there's no way you get like good brushes from Walmart, right? Like they've got to be.
Well, yeah,
No,
I mean,
you could definitely
yeah, go for
you
it.
could
Jeff.
compete with mine at like a Michaels or something.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I bought my fair share of like cheap synthetic brushes, but nothing like this. Like, especially, I have these detail ones, and the point you can get on them is like nothing else you're gonna get out of a $1 pack of anything.
Have you had a chance to use them yet?
I haven't yet. I've been saving them, but just from handling them a little bit, these detail ones, I love the shorter, fatter handle. Where's my camera? On these guys, and the bristles they seem really soft. Is that right, Jeff? They seem on the softer side to me than some of like the golden.
Yeah, they're about
yeah.
I feel like these are about as soft as you can get.
Yeah.
Like if you've painted canvases before, mine would be maybe as soft as like a varnish brush. That's
Sure.
you would put that final layer of varnish on the canvas, which sometimes also uses like a white nylon, or if it's natural. Well, I was gonna possibly do a natural hair brush.
Yeah.
And I was looking at different materials and stuff. And I own a few, like the Kolinsky Sables, the Cadillac or whatever of paintbrushes.
Right.
If people are interested in those, I think the brand Escoda is the best, which is a brand from Spain.
Sure.
But I was looking into it, and I just couldn't imagine how horrific that manufacturing process actually is.
Sure.
Like, it just seems so, I don't know, nightmarish, like thinking of all those animals. So
Right.
Yeah, I don't think I want to be a part of it. Like, I own a few, and whatnot, but I just didn't think I wanted to be a part of it. So I went synthetic, and then, like I said, with the price point, part of it too is the local game store I would hang out at is in Phoenix, Arizona, and I would see people just carrying like handfuls of Reaper Bones and WizKids models, like up to the register, and then I just kind of wanted to be the candy bar at the register. Like if they're buying, 20 models for their D&D games or whatever, like maybe they want to buy a paintbrush or two and try to paint some of them a little bit,
Yeah, that's a good
kind of the goal. Yeah, kind of the goal was candy bar at the register.
I guess actually you do a lot of your own painting, so I guess that kind of helps with the whole process of figuring out what feels good. You kind of just make what you want.
Yeah, I think that's probably maybe the best strategy to go about it. I contacted actually quite a bit of companies, including that Skoda from Spain. They're distributed by Speedball, if you know that company that makes all the pens and pen and ink stuff.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so I was talking to Speedball, but the prices were, really high. It was like $8 to $15 a brush for me. And I was just like, I don't even know what you'd have to charge somebody for that. Like,
The Spanish brand you mentioned. Can you repeat the name of the Spanish brand? People are asking about it. How do you spell it?
Escoda. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Probably the best deal you can get for them is maybe Dick Blick or Jerry's Artorama if you're in the U.S. I think those are the biggest like online art supply retailers. I used to work at a Jerry's Artorama.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I've spent a lot of time around art supplies.
Yeah.
And one interesting thing so like a Jerry's Artorama, they would, just as an example, so they would sell like an Escoda Optimo here, Kolinsky Sable, and then they would also sell, just let's pretend, a brush that looks just like it, but the brand would be Creative Mark.
Huh.
And it would be their brand. So Jerry's Artorama will directly compete with the items they sell with their own brand, which is, I guess, the markup would be insane, and then they make a ton of profit off it.
Right.
Just kind of an interesting art supply fact, I guess, in the selling of art supplies.
Do you think the do you think the companies that they were stocking and also competing with knew?
Yeah, I think so. Because they're also one of the biggest like Jerry's Artorama and Dick Blick or Blick.com. I think they're the two like biggest art supply sellers. So, I mean, I imagine they would still sell a ton of their products as well.
That's fair. Yeah, I guess that's the thing where it's like you can't really afford not to do business with them. But that's really funny.
Yeah, it was pretty like some of it was like really close looking. Like it would be like well, I'm trying to think of a name, but let's just say it was like the Griffin Canvas, Griffin Canvas Company, and then Jerry's Artorama would have right next to it for like $2 less. Hippogriff Canvas, At least in the store, like in the big store. And the stores were like the store I worked at. It was like the size of a Michael's, but there was no like, I don't know, filler like barrels and crates and stuff like that. It was all art supplies, easels, canvases, screen printing, pen and ink, drawing, stuff like that. Yeah, Utrecht is the same. Here in Tempe, Arizona, Dick Blick bought out the Utrecht location, so I think they're Blick now. I don't know how big Utrecht is nationwide, but yeah, there would be the same. If you've been to a Utrecht, you'd be familiar with that.
I haven't
Vertex.
seen Utrecht in the New York in a long time. I think they're all Blicks now. So probably the same thing happened.
Yeah, they might have bought them out. They at least did here in Arizona. At least the one I know of near the ASU campus.
Where did my grays go?
But yeah, it's funny, people are like, curious on how you make the brushes, and basically, I mean, I don't hand make them myself, but it's just a matter of contacting a lot of factories and trying to find somebody you can work with, and somebody that kind of gets the, I don't know, the vision or the goal. But I have this weird, I try to protect myself from my factories, so I don't really tell them what I'm doing.
So how do you get it across?
I just, small, fine detail, extra pointy, here's the materials, this and that. But sometimes they ask questions that just seem a little odd. And I'm like,
Sure.
Oh, I don't know. I'm like, oh, the customers pre-order. The customers are but I don't tell them about the campaigns. I don't share the images with them or anything.
Oh, sure.
Because, I don't have any authority over them. They're a factory in China. I work with two different factories, and they're really nice. And they're super, like, I won't name any names, but they've shown me samples of things, and I'm like, oh, I recognize that brand. Because they'll show you, like, oh, is this what you're interested in? Something like in this direction? And it's like, oh, that's familiar to me. But it's been pretty unique experience. I never thought the original plan, the reason my name was Sleepwalk Air on Kickstarter is I was doing an airbrush.
Huh.
And it all kind of started with airbrushes, and then just the mechanics of it, the amount of maybe replacement parts I would need to have in stock or whatever. It just got a little overwhelming. I was talking with Badger quite a bit to get something done with them.
Yeah, it seems more complicated than just a stick with bristles on it.
Yeah, exactly. And plus, I had been painting for a long time, whereas the reason I was thinking airbrush was because it just took me like a year to pick an airbrush. It was like, trying to buy an airbrush felt so complicated because, I just wanted a company to be like, hey, this is the airbrush for priming and base coating models. And that would have been the one I bought, but it was so hard to find something like that.
You've got a fair amount of I'm fairly new to the hobby. Hamster helped me paint my first mini a little over a year ago, and then we started doing this show like. When did we start doing this?
Was it in the fall?
It was after Wildlands, yeah.
Yeah.
So not after Wildlands, we started doing the show, and so then that got me to start painting more regularly. 'Cause it just, it makes me like have to paint something every week. So I'm still like learning all these brands and everything. We've got a fair amount of people. But like the airbrush, I got the airbrush for Christmas, and I finally used it today. Just because I was so nervous about using it. It seems so intimidating from the outside, but then you actually do it, and like, they're not actually hard to use. We'll see if I cleaned it correctly. They might be hard to
There's
clean.
like this idea that it's just gonna hose paint all over your house or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just this uncontrollable thing.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I guess there's definitely, I can definitely see the thinking behind wanting to be the more accessible airbrush. Because I don't know if anybody has really kind of taken that place as like, yeah, this is your good starter airbrush.
I think some people, I think if there's somebody, an entrepreneur in the chat, I think there is room for something like that to exist, for sure.
We do have a lot of hobbyists in chat, and actually quite a few people who watch us also make their own stuff. Our audience tends to be, our audience tends to be creatives. I guess largely because we make stuff for DMs more than players. So we get a lot of people who make their own stuff and paint their own stuff and all that jazz. There's actually a lot of, I guess we didn't really, people did post what they were working on today. I think Rabbit, you mentioned you do wargaming stuff. A couple of people in our Discord, Rabbit Burner and Kraid, have been assembling and painting Titans like side by side. Well, I say side by side. One of them is like on the West Coast, the other one's in Britain. But it's been kind of a wild process, and I really like the wargaming scene is fascinating to me because it seems like everybody who plays wargames also does like every other hobbyist activity because you have to. Like, seems like everybody who plays also like knows how to assemble and paint and sometimes craft their own stuff to like decorate battlefields and everything.
I think I kind of talk about it sometimes in my campaigns or whatever, but I think creating art or painting is like super basic human instinct.
Right.
Like if you give any little kid crayons or paints or colored pencils, they'll start drawing. It's just what they do automatically. And I think there's just something fascinating about that. I don't know much deeper into that, but kids all paint. And my theory is eventually kids kind of separate into which kids were told they were good and which ones were told they were not good.
Sure,
and then the ones that weren't as good as the other kids in class start to stop. They stop creating art. And I think one thing with this hobby is maybe some of those kids find their way back and realize that they still like it. But maybe they were told that, they weren't as good as the other kid or whatever. And that's just a theory, but I think it's possible.
There's definitely something to be... Honestly, I think both of those things are correct. Like, art in general fascinates me because it seems like it's something that only humans do. Like, it doesn't serve any real purpose when it comes to, like, us surviving or anything. Like,
right.
I mean, you can try to make it a job and actually have it, like, apply to your food and shelter and stuff, but it's not the easiest way to get food and shelter. So, like...
Right.
It's fascinating. Like in a lot of ways, like you look at art and it's like there's no reason to do this, but like we're constantly doing it. And yeah,
like imagine the
caveman. What was that?
Like imagine the caveman laughing as they like are painting that woolly mammoth,
Yeah.
Just hanging out.
There's this skit. Joel Haver does these weekly sketches on YouTube, and some of them are like really fascinating. He does some that are like really rotoscope heavy that are like just really cool aesthetic. One of them is the birth of sketch comedy, and it's just him and another guy rotoscoped in as cavemen, and you can't understand like anything that they're saying, but they're just like grunting at each other and laughing about it, and it's fascinating. Yeah, as far as too, like the encryption goes. Oh, sorry.
Arguably, isn't writing formed from like the arts, art and stuff like that they were making? So
I mean, I guess you can argue that like writing was a survival thing because it like let you share information about like whatever. But like, I don't know. We've got a lot of things. We write a lot of things, especially I don't know if you've been on the internet. We write a lot of things that don't really help our survival.
by the way, I'm switching over to physical sculpting with like between like the different things going on, like my computer is way too slow to run anything. So
yeah. Oh, Conversation brings up a good point. Coco the gorilla, she did make art. Didn't they have her do paintings and stuff?
I think I remember hearing about that.
I wonder why.
Yeah, but just a fun fact. I think it's a fact. You can correct me if I'm wrong. When they teach gorillas and chimpanzees and stuff sign language, although they can respond to questions, they'll never ask one.
Oh, interesting.
So even though they can learn sign language and stuff, they would never actually ask the trainer something.
So that means they can learn to communicate, but I guess it's the idea of like initiating that conversation. That's fascinating.
I heard that even though the gorillas didn't ask questions, like there's certain birds that were able to ask a question, like especially if it's a question about themselves, then like it's apparently it's more like it's they have a higher understanding of like
they just only want to talk about themselves.
yeah, it's like one of the parrots like asked, "What color am I?"
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's interesting. As far as encouragement goes, was that?
The idea of self, I guess, is apparently I don't know, like a higher intellectual. I don't know enough about this at all, but I heard that and I thought it was interesting.
Well, philosophically, yeah, it comes down to like the whole ego thing, like. I guess yeah, it's like why like dogs and cats don't recognize themselves in mirrors. There's a clip on YouTube. There's a clip on Twitter going around last week of this cat just screaming at itself in the mirror. And like really upset that there's another cat.
I think Dunk does, because one point he was like staring in the mirror and I was trying to touch his ears, but he saw me trying to touch his ears in the mirror, so he was moving it before I touch it.
Huh.
He did recognize it was him.
You might have a cat of above average intelligence.
I don't know about that, but
above average awareness, then. I don't know.
Speaking of,
is he here? There he is.
Hey, there's Dunk.
I brought him outside today in the backyard.
Nice. Jeff, did you do a lot of art as a kid? Or was that something you got into as you got into war games when you were older?
Or? No, I did a lot as a kid. I still have sketchbooks and stuff from when I was probably 10 or so. And just used to always draw. All I wanted to ever be was an oil painter. There's something, I don't know, romantic about it, I think.
I can
selling things great with your hands or whatever. And then you get told, like, you basically get told that that's not a job, so then you got to go into like graphic design or something that maybe you didn't quite want to do, but it's somewhat similar, or you feel like it could be similar. But yeah, and then I played miniature games when I was younger. Like I started in 2nd edition 40K. And then I had that kind of normal common break where people take that long break when they start like
Yep.
going to bars and stuff.
Yep.
I
Exactly.
think I've been back in about 6 years or something, maybe a little longer. It's kind of funny, like I haven't drank now in like over 4 years, and part of it was like I didn't want to be hungover on Saturday morning to go play Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
When I got the hobby, it was like, oh, I'll just go out Saturday night instead of Fridays, because I'm missing hanging out with my old friends, because I started reconnecting with all my, those same guys that were still there from when I was younger at the game store.
That's cool. That saves you a lot of money in the long run too. Well, I mean, I guess actually no. Tabletop is a very expensive hobby.
Yeah, but you never like accidentally buy a $60 box of miniatures.
I disagree with
Where
that entirely.
Yeah, don't make my decisions my fault with my impulse buys.
The entire story of how I wound up with this Froghemoth is a huge counterpoint to the you never accidentally buy a mini thing.
It's still, well, I don't know, because I would go close out like $100 bar tab and be like, what the heck did I do?
Yeah, like I guess that can
That
fly
is true,
by. You
yeah.
go to the bar and you don't realize how much you spent.
Yeah, until you get it at the end, you're like, oh, whoops.
You can't really go back now. Like you can't give it back. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and if
Who's
you
your
think
favorite?
about,
Oh, sorry.
oh, go ahead. I know the answer before you ask the question, so I'm just gonna say it.
Oh yeah, so you already saw. Yeah.
William Bugaro? Were you gonna ask who's my favorite painter?
Yeah, I saw the Vertex ass. Who's it? Who's he?
William Adolphe Bugaro.
Oh wow.
He's a French master. He's actually one of the last kind of French masters. Basically, he is probably the greatest painter of all time, but during his reign of power or whatever is also the time when like people like Picasso or Matisse, some of these like more impressionist painters came around.
Right.
And then art galleries realized these other guys could whip out paintings so much faster that they would support them because they could sell way more paintings. So they started promoting all these, what I would say, inferior painters. So he's kind of,
That's
and then they would bash Bouguereau for, holding on to that old traditional style, even though he's, probably the best that ever did it. So if you look him up, he's pretty incredible. His like pale skin tones are phenomenal. And they were actually touring his stuff around for like the first time, and I randomly kind of got to see it in Milwaukee. It was incredible. Yeah, so during his time, as basically a lot of Americans were the ones buying his artwork, even though he was in France. So all his paintings were being sold to America. So it's pretty interesting that a lot of his stuff is in museums and private collections in America, because at the time Europe was all about like impressionist painting and Van Gogh and all these different, I might be getting some of these artists' names wrong as far as the exact time, but it was when art was shifting into that other period of like style. There wasn't that high Renaissance style anymore.
Huh. Apparently Vertex saw some of his stuff live a couple years back, and he actually he missed it when it was in Milwaukee because he was going to GaryCon.
Oh, it was so amazing in Milwaukee. Like, it was after Adepticon. I was visiting a friend in Milwaukee because we just took the train from Adepticon up to Milwaukee. And literally, just driving around, I see his name on like a banner by the art museum there. And I was like, holy crap. Like, that's my favorite. Like, my only goal in life was to see this one painting in Williamstown, Massachusetts. It was like my goal, my bucket list was like, I want to see this painting before I die. And randomly, it happened to be at that show, like the first time it had toured in 80 years or whatever. And I actually got to see it there. And then I didn't know what to do after that. I saw
That's amazing.
my bucket list.
Nice.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I guess my bucket list is done. I got nothing.
Man, that's really cool though. Like, what are the odds?
Yeah, and just to think that I could have found out the day I went home, you know, back to Phoenix or whatever.
Yeah, you were that close to missing it entirely.
Yeah, because it was like 2 days before I flew back home to Phoenix. And then we ended up seeing it the day before I left.
I think traditional art, I think, is the medium that I have the hardest time understanding and getting into. And I've been trying to get better about it. And there are a couple times where I have gone to, you know, because like one of the cool things about New York is there's so many like museums that are just free or super cheap to go to. And so,
Oh yeah.
yeah, before the pandemic hit, I started going to the Brooklyn Museum every couple months because it isn't that far from me, and you can go in for free. And started like just actually seeing like the paintings that were there, and like trying to like understand. It's the thing where it's just not how I communicate, I suppose. So like I can look at a painting and I can see like, yeah, like they're really good at like making like a painting that looks good and everything. But I have a very hard time understanding like I guess the expression of it and like what they're trying to say with it a lot of the time.
Yeah, I don't know how deep I need to or want to keep going, but I love talking about it. But
No, it's really cool.
It's interesting to hear about it, so yeah.
Yeah, I find this fascinating.
it's interesting because you love old style paintings, but they were really just like rich people flexing on poor people a lot of the time.
Oh, sure.
So like the church was showing, you know, the common people that, you know, these big elaborate things, or the rich person would get the still life painting of like the grapes and the grapefruit and the apples. But at the time, fruit would have been so expensive for like the average person.
Oh.
Or especially like an exotic fruit, like, you know, if you had maybe grapes in Rome, that might not have been a thing that naturally grew at the time. Well, I guess it would have because of wine, but you know what I'm saying. If they had like, they would do paintings of exotic fruits that weren't common to the area to show other rich people like how rich they were.
Oh, wow.
And that's how they could get the fancy fruit. So then it kind of kills your, like when I was saying this kind of romantic idea of being a painter. Basically, if you were an oil painter nowadays, it's like a rich housewife buying your painting because it matches her couch. Like,
Sure.
you know what I mean? Like, it's pretty uncommon that somebody's going to see that, you know, how you were saying that communication. Like, there are some artists, I'm sure, that do some real visual communicating, but a lot of them are almost like interior decorators in a way.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a blue couch and you're like, you see a painting that just happens to, oh, that would look great in my living room, and it's only $40,000, you know? So it's just kind of a, you know, people buy it for investments and stuff too, but that is part of it, but kind of kills a little bit of that like romantic feeling.
So you're saying that it's instead of the painter's flexing, it's the buyer's flexing.
I think it's both.
Yeah.
But the
It's
painter,
intimidated
the
collector.
rise of modern art, the painter doesn't have to be as technically good, right? They could just be good at only some aspects of it, like color theory or something. But they don't have to be like a skilled drawer or artist in that sense. Because, you know, people might want just the abstract, you know, colors or whatever.
Yeah.
Huh.
You know, none of this is like definitive, but it's just kind of interesting thoughts on it, I guess.
That is interesting.
But I do think as long as you're good, there would always be probably some sort of market for your work if you're actually technically very good. I think there's always going to be people who will purchase or collect that.
It's interesting. Yeah, I think it was that way with. I think that was the way with poetry too, and I've made more progress on poetry than with visual art. But I'm trying to get into visual art more, just because one of my sisters is a traditional artist, and it's wild because like it kind of came out of nowhere for a lot of us. Like it wasn't something she showed a lot of interest in when she was a kid or growing up, but last couple of years in high school, she just kind of started getting the stuff to do it and like getting canvases and stuff and
Right.
doing things. And, and it started off with doing like portraits of like the family cat and doing like this. She did like some really good stuff with pointillism. There was a while where she was like having like a lot of neighbors and stuff commission her to like do like pointillist portraits of their dogs and stuff.
Right.
But then she got to the point, and she plays with like all different kinds of mediums. She'll do like charcoal and all that. And suddenly got to the point where she started like releasing pieces that had like very kind of evocative imagery. And it's a thing where it's like I look at it and it's like, so like like a woman in overalls, like holding like a watering can, and she's also
Right.
got like a gas mask on, and stuff like that.
Okay.
And so it's a thing where it's like I look at that and it's like I feel like there's definitely stuff that was like on your mind when you were painting these, and so it's that thing where it's like, man, I want to get better at like figuring out how to interpret that stuff, figuring out how to like understand. 'Cause I don't know, like I feel like it's a thing. Is I feel like you look at a painting and it's like, oh, this is a painting of this house, or this is a painting of a woman or whatever. But
Wait, when did she do that one?
when did she do that one?
Yeah.
That one was about 2 years ago, I think.
Okay, because that almost sounds like it was like a COVID thing. Like,
No, it was before.
Yeah.
It was before the pandemic because I helped her set up. She took some of her originals to a bazaar and stuff, and so I helped her like set that up, and that was pre-quarantine. Yeah, because I haven't been home since all that stuff. So yeah, that actually.
So
couldn't
you
have
told
been.
me that she predicted the pandemic.
That's exactly what it is. Yes.
And by you trying to figure out what's on their mind, you want to figure out how she predicted.
Yes, I'm trying to figure out who she made like which devil she made a deal with, what she's sacrificing, and it's possible that like maybe she just thinks these are images that look cool. I haven't like asked her outright because it seems like I don't know, it seems like a weird thing to ask somebody, but like I don't know. I feel like there's because it's a thing like I didn't get poetry until the last couple of years, and then like I found a couple poets where like reading their poems like actually made me go like, oh no, like I think I get this, like, and so I think it's a thing is I'm trying to get to the point where I can like have that moment where I can like appreciate like visual art on a deeper level, because I feel like I just don't get it most of the time. And I don't know like what the key for that is. I don't think it's a thing that you go into a class and like get told how to feel things, you know?
That's interesting because I don't get poetry at all.
I didn't
like I can
until
get a
very
song,
recently. Yeah.
I can enjoy songs, but I'm not like I've never looked up like a great poet or anything.
We'd read like Edgar Allan Poe and stuff, but like I never felt like I never like felt anything when I would read like the classics, when I'd read Robert Frost or Edgar Allan Poe or anything. And maybe I would now if I go back. Maybe it's just a thing that like maybe it is like a perspective thing, maybe it's just a life experience thing. But like Marisa Crane, I find to be like a really good poet. Their stuff's been really cool to read, and they're also writing prose and stuff that's good too. But I don't know. So I guess that's the thing is I feel like that's what's fascinating about art, right? Is like there's all these different mediums for art, and I feel like that's because people think and feel in different ways, and so different mediums are easier for different people to express in. And
What kind of music do you like?
I've got a pretty broad taste. Most recently, I've got outside of getting really into like Japanese and Thai like rock and jazz bands. I tend to get into like, what is the, so I guess sort of in like the indie rock field, but specifically stuff that when I hear it, kind of I start seeing sort of cinematics to it, I guess. Um, like there were times where like the kind of rock I was into was like AC/DC and stuff, but now I lean
Right.
more into the Beths. I Phoebe Bridgers' stuff is pretty good. I don't know if she's one of my favorites at the moment, but Kyoto's a pretty good song. I also really like Talking Heads and like David Byrne. I like his stuff's just always been like cool to me. But yeah, I definitely over the last couple of years have been getting more into songs that it's less about like how cool the music is and more like, oh, like I like these lyrics are like making me think about or feel certain things or reminding me of like a certain like I don't know, I think it's really cool that like you can hear like 5 notes of a song and go like, oh yeah, this sounds like a road trip, is like a really like fascinating thing to me, and I think it's something that only music can really do. Is like
Right.
a couple notes can like teleport you to like an instance of time or like a very specific emotional state that isn't just like happy or sad, but it's just like, yeah, this is what it's like when you're with this person that you have this kind of relationship with, and that can be communicated with like the just like the vibes of a song before they even say any words. I think is fascinating.
Yeah, like for
But
me, I barely ever like actually listen to the words. Like I hear more the melody, even though my favorite song. So like, if a song can convey and it can understand like the music enough to just like picture like the mood or the picture right away, I think that's really like that.
yeah, and like people who can write really good lyrics too are also like fantastic. That's one of the reasons I really like the Beths. Is I think the Beths like have some of the best lyricism in like the rock scene right now. Um, Phoebe Bridgers also has really good lyrics actually, but I don't know. It's interesting because it combines, it combines like the written word aspect of art with, like musicianship and understanding like music theory, and it's fascinating. Like it's kind of multimedia. There's a lot of different things that you can get from a song based on what stuff they focus on. Instrumental stuff is very cool, and you can get very different things from it than you'll get from like very lyrics driven songs. Like you've got something like rap where it's like how many words can we get into this song, and it's all about like how well you can use the English language. I don't know. It's a fascinatingly broad field. It's a thing where like I want to try to like appreciate all of it, but sometimes my tastes get in the way, and that's frustrating. But
What I will say about traditional art is, at least technically, I think, there's so many miniature painting videos on YouTube and stuff that are great, but I think the things that have helped me the most are just going to the fundamentals of traditional art. Just like value and form, and seeing them in different mediums like traditional art or even like graphic design. I found videos that are talking about that in that sense, and just like why things work as opposed to, put null oil on it and it'll look great. Like putting your recipes from people. I found it a lot more, a lot easier to improve, or at least like have those big gaps in improvement by getting the understanding of the fundamentals that have been like as old as time, like what the masters are saying.
right, because even then, like when you're talking about like visual art, like there's the aestheticism of the whole thing, where it is just like, what looks good. And there's a lot of different ways to approach that, and it's stuff that Jeff touched on earlier as well. Just like if you're just extremely good at understanding color theory, like that is an art form entirely in itself, and doesn't even have to be that you're trying to like communicate anything with it. And I think it's the thing with most art forms too. Like it's with filmmaking, like there's value in both like the art films and also like understanding cinema enough to just do like a blockbuster and like make something that keeps people like hyped the whole time. With music, like there's musicianship and there's the ability to craft something that's really expressive and heartfelt, and then there's the ability to craft something that's really catchy and poppy and stays in your head. Like there's a lot of different approaches to every artistic medium.
Yeah, one thing that's crazy about that catchy pop songs. What's that Swedish guy's name that wrote like every single hit pop song in the last 20 years? Max Martin, I think his name is. Have you heard that guy?
Sounds familiar, yeah.
Yeah, he's written like every hit Ariana Grande song, Taylor Swift song, Britney Spears song, NSYNC and Backstreet Boys song. I think he wrote some songs for The Weeknd. Like I mean, he's just some Swedish songwriter and sells all these songs to pop stars, Katy Perry and all them. And you think like, oh, they're so deep. They're talking about this, and it's like, you know, this 50-year-old guy in Sweden writing about what it's like to be a teenage girl or whatever.
Man, the whole idea of having songwriters has always been fascinating to me. Like ghostwriting for music, especially because like I think people associate the person singing the song or the band playing the song. They're like inextricable from the music that they produce and put out there. It's always weird to me when it's like actually the person who is most responsible for like the stuff that you're connecting to with this music is somebody who you don't even know. Is like wild to me.
Plus, they're gonna be in like interviews answering questions about the song.
Yeah.
This was always weird to me. Like when there was one interview with one of these pop stars where they were talking about how recording this album was just like it was a really emotionally difficult like challenging thing, but I just had to get these things out there, and I'm like, you didn't write any of these songs. Like none of these are actually your personal experience. Like
say that though.
Right, and I know it's about selling the narrative that this is like there's value in making people feel like this is a very there's value in like kind of selling yourself as like this authentic person who is communicating like very openly to an audience. So I understand why you have to go up there and you have to claim the music. It's just really weird to me because it's not like it's a secret that other people are writing the music. Really, like it's credited in the album and everything.
I mean, the thing is, yeah, it's credited, but most people don't see that, and most people who are following the thing believe that the narrative they're told. It's like they want to believe. It's not like they want to find out the truth or how everything is like made.
I suppose it's just interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I don't think it does like a ton of harm at the end of the day, because like at the end of the day, if this music like meant a lot to somebody and helped them through something, it doesn't particularly matter who was actually responsible for it in the grand scheme of like, has this person's life been improved? But it's always weird to me that some of the most prolific musicians working right now are people that we don't actually know at all because their name isn't on, or their face isn't on any of it, at least.
I mean, I guess what you're saying, I guess, like, if there's people actually, like, connect to the, not the actual artist here, but, like, the singer, whoever's, like, the name is under, like, and believe that that person also went through the same life experiences, maybe that's, like, but if they just want something that helps them through something, and that's whatever works for them is fine.
Yeah. Oh well. Can suffer long as one or two. Listen to all this high-level art discussion. We're dry brushing massive slabs of Titan armor. What are you working on, Toby?
I switched over back to my
your Ghost Town storefront thing.
Because my computer could not handle like Twitch, Discord, and then a second monitor trying to run a heavy program.
I am going to build everybody at Dwarven Forge a gaming PC. It viscerally upsets me.
And thanks, 6 of Clubs.
Was that?
I saw a comment saying that the sculpt looks right. Thank you. Yeah. It's a slow progress, but I just like slowly working on it.
Yeah, I am really every time I see that sculpt, it's blows my mind that like you got that level of detail out of it already.
Things like I want more of the base things to be a little more flat, but
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing.
doing the
Whatever
wiki
you make, you're always gonna look at it and wish that you had done something a little bit better.
yeah.
But like,
That's what a lot of like either actors or like artists don't look at their final product.
oh yeah, I can't watch my own stuff. Well, the thing is, like, everybody who sees the thing you work on, like, doesn't have the perfect version of it that you have in your head. Like, they don't see or have that. So, like, to them, they just see what you've actually done, and they're like, wow, this is really good.
Yeah, and you hear a lot of people just complain like, "Oh, John Williams didn't watch Star Wars or whatever, even though he wrote music for it." It's like, he must not give a shit. It's like that's not how it is. These are.
I mean,
I guess kind of, but like it's more than just like not caring. It's more that like they don't want to care too much when something's done and done.
is that the email again just now? Is that the email again? I feel like I missed part of the conversation here. What's going on?
Say, Jeff, I'm interested in this tiny chisel brush. What uses did you envision for that? I think that's really cool.
Oh, Mace is dealing with it. Okay.
It's going to be actually surprisingly really good to make short, straight lines if you run it across the tip. Yeah. So if you need to make like hatch mark lines or short, straight lines, but then also just, I don't know, I think it's going to be valuable for just the weird angles of belts and straps and stuff on miniatures, just to be able to kind of reach it and get that corner of the chisel maybe in the closest part where the belt disappears in fold of the jacket or whatever.
Right. Yeah, see, it's kind of, the bristles are kind of at an angle here, guys, if you can see that. It's really tiny, but yeah, that'll be interesting. Like how you can use the different parts of it, like you can sort of like use the whole edge for something or use just the little tiny tip of the chisel. Like that's really cool.
Yeah, I think it'll just be one of those fun ones that you just pull out when you're like, oh, I need to, find a brush that fits in this bracelet.
Right.
They load, like the miniatures are just loaded with so much detail. Sometimes it's nice to get a miniature that doesn't have overly complicated.
Yeah. Yes.
Man, with all the like little minis like having hit faces and everything, like whenever I get to like just paint a bear or something,
yeah.
But it's like the whole thing is one color, and then I just gotta dry brush it to make it look like it has depth, and that's it. That's all I'm doing. It's very refreshing.
Yeah, I got these. They're hard to find for some reason. I guess they always sell out. But the WizKid Owl Bear.
Oh yeah.
I think like 4. He's just a ball with texture. But he's so fun to just wash, because all that texture in the feathers is perfect for wash and dry brush. And love that little guy.
Yeah, man.
But he's always sold out. But I would probably have painted 10 of them by now if I could keep finding them.
Even then, just all the like, just like the fact that you can see like the feathers underneath the feathers on top was like great. I tried to do something similar with that recently. The artificer in my game has his steel defender is a pangolin, just a giant metal pangolin with like metal scales and stuff. And so
all right.
I found this magma pangolin sculpt on Etsy, and I think I can just go grab it. I tried to do a thing where I tried to put like the metal undercarriage and like based him in that whole thing, and then tried to make all of his scales like an individual color and have like, oh, you can see between the scales, you can see like the color of the metal like underneath like his actual like core body or whatever. It's not nearly as accurate as your owlbear's feathers were, because I'm still figuring out how all this stuff works, but I'm pretty happy with it. I'm gonna go grab them.
I might just dry brush. Ghost dry brush. I did it on stream.
Actually, I'm excited to do some dry brushing. I want to use. I have your dry brushes here, and I want to use them on this base once I'm done with the rest of.
Yeah, I'm kind of trying to do some stippling with this guy on this shield here. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
One thing with the dry brushes is if you want to keep that dry brush look, you don't really want to rinse them. Once you rinse it, it absorbs so much water that it's going to be better for like a stippling or over brushing kind of style.
Oh,
but
sure.
you really want that kind of hefty, dry bone look or whatever. Just keep it dry, as you know. Don't rinse it before and then don't rinse it until you're completely done, or you're gonna have to set it aside and wait for it to dry again.
That's totally valid. Oh man, I'm excited. I need to get better at dry brushing, because when Wildlands gets here, I'm gonna have to do a lot of dry brushing. We've been using dry brushing like more and more for our pieces, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the staple technique for all of like our rocky sort of, you know, all the heavily textured stuff, which is almost all of it, you know. So
yeah,
it's kind of the go-to.
I'm so excited to paint the ruins, honestly. I'm
They're
glad I got a good
fun.
amount of them. I'm glad I got a good amount of them because I want to try out a couple different paint schemes.
Yeah, I definitely picked up a pack of those. Might do a couple different styles. That is if I ever
For
open
the
my box as a
Dwarven
Dwarforge. What's that, Jeff?
For the Dwarven Forge Kickstarters, are you guys ones that also paint for the customers?
We don't paint for
Or do you have like a team of paint?
Well, the team is me and Erin. She's the senior painter. And I came in and...
She was on last week?
Let's see, was she? Was she on?
No. Mace was on. Mace was on last week. Yeah.
Yeah, she hasn't... I don't know if she's been on a stream lately.
The only one here who actually paints for the company is Hamster. Erin hasn't been on. Erin hasn't been on yet. I'm excited to, as long as she's down for it at least. Once we're back in the office, it'd be nice to do some more painting streams with her again.
Yeah, she has a lot of cool ideas. She's designed most of the schemes. I came on just base coating a bulk of prototypes. So in the office, we paint the prototypes, and then the hand-painted stuff that goes to the customer is done in a factory. But all the stuff you see on the Kickstarters is hand-painted in the office. And so I started with the miniatures and accessories, and I would kind of help with the bulk of the larger terrain stuff. And then this year, I finally got a chance to design a terrain sector in the ruins, which was exciting. So yeah, I've been a painter there for a few years now, but Erin is the brains. She's been there a long time.
Yeah,
She's
like been there. Sorry.
Quite a complex operation.
Well, yeah, yeah. The biggest thing that I've learned is like how painting for manufacturing is different from your hobby painting.
Yeah, that you've talked about that. Like, you can paint a piece to like the absolute best of your ability and it'll look incredible, but if it's done in a way that a factory full of people can't replicate easily, it's gonna cause problems.
Right.
And not only that, you need to like keep in mind like the amount of color you use and like the techniques, because the more you do, the pricier the piece gets.
Right. Yeah, like how the decisions you make affect the price, and yeah, it's wild.
Because we tend to be really ambitious with everything we do, but that can really come back to bite us sometimes when it gets to the point where, you know, we've got to now mass produce these things and get them out to a bunch of people. And the factory either can't do it or can't do it without charging way more money than we initially expected.
Or can't do it
Right.
consistently, which was a problem of Red Hollow.
Yeah. Hey, thank you for the raid, Bandit Badgers. Hope your game went well.
Oh, on the chat, you mentioned somebody named Rabbit Burner.
Yes.
I think he commented on my Kickstarter the other day. Is he the same guy from that video where Gary Gygax is trying to rescue him?
Yes. He
Swamp alligator video or whatever. I watched that one on YouTube.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the Swamp build of the month, the Sea Cave of Secrets build of the month. Not Swamp.
Yeah.
We don't have the Swamp yet. Yeah, the Sea Cave of Secrets build of the month. That was the narrative they came up with. Rabbit Burner has been one of our backers going way back. He's usually at these streams. He usually has to go to bed after a bit because he's in the UK, so it's pretty late for him. But he still tries to make all the streams. He's extremely nice guy. Mostly a wargamer. Actually, entirely a wargamer. He hasn't played D&D for a long time. But he's the one who was working on a Titan that he's had for apparently like 2 decades, and then somebody else in our Discord got one and was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna start making this." And Rabbit was like, "Maybe I should bust mine out and finally like make it." And so they've been posting like progress shots, like, and just like having a conversation as they like about the different decisions they make about like what weapons they're gonna put on it, what paint scheme, and all that. It's been a really cool thing to watch. It's a massive undertaking, way bigger than anything I've done as a hobbyist, because I'm not a painter. But yeah, it's really cool to see. Yeah, Rabbit went to bed a little bit ago. I'm UK, so is Band of Badgers. Yeah, Band of Badgers is I need to talk to you guys about it. They do a bunch of D&D streaming, including a painting show and stuff. And they were wondering if we wanted to start doing some guest stuff with them. And
That'd be cool.
yeah, seems like a really, really fun operation. They all seem like really nice people. I had a meeting with them 2 days ago. Got all the information. We need to tell everybody about it, see who wants to play, because they've got like 4 games a week going on their Twitch channel right now, something like that.
Jeez.
All different systems. I think they're going to be at 5 soon. They're doing like a Starfinder game, a Pathfinder game, D&D 5th edition game, vampire game. Like they're doing a lot of stuff, and then the painting show that I think Hamster you'd probably be really interested in taking part in.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
So I need to talk to Jordy about doing that. This week's just also been a lot. Got a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
going on.
Toby, May says you're making a haunted house, right?
Yeah, it's
that-
kind of like a haunted or more like abandoned, overgrown, ruined, like swampy house.
Love that.
It's like an actual ghost town.
Yeah, and like
Okay.
yeah,
Let's see.
I'm starting with some ruined wooden boards and stuff like that, and also like the wallpaper inside is like torn up, and the rug is disheveled, revealing a trapdoor underneath. And then later on, like do like greenery, like overtaking it and ruin it up more.
You know, can we just give a quick shout out to Washes and how they just instantly fix everything wrong with your paint job?
Amen.
Because I was really unhappy with the stone, and then I just put a black wash on it, and now it all looks great. So, thank you, Washes.
But yeah, I've been always wanting to do more sculpting, so I'm just trying to, like, I've always been like in a little bit of it for the Kickstarters, like even when I started in castles, I worked on some of that Error stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, last year what I think I did the most. I've done stuff and like this year I haven't started yet, but I will soon. Excited to.
I'm very
Some of my favorite things to do. Like even though I'm like stuck on doing like, a lot of like the technical thing, like right now, like I'm stuck with like, developing the geometry and stuff like that. But I want to be able to. I always look forward to actually getting to sculpt.
Which there is insane geometry magic happening, and you guys, I mean, obviously I can't say anything, but the ideas that are happening in the development meetings, oh man.
Oh, we showed off the dock system last night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nate busted out like the 3D printed like mock-ups of the dock system and played around with those for a little bit.
Awesome.
Yeah, the docks are really fun to like try to figure out. Like I'm still want to like print out more, but our printer cubes and things clogged, so I haven't really been able to play with it more. But I think if it can go according to plan, I think you guys gonna love it.
Man, I hope we get to do it the way that we see it in our head, because it seems like such a revolutionary system to me. Like,
Me too.
it's just such a cool idea, and to see it like finally. It's a thing where it's like I don't know if it's a thing that you've been able to do in terrain before, and now like there's finally like a solution for doing like rooftop chases and stuff. I don't know. I'm very excited. Instead we're looking at leaving inline building. Instead we're looking at leaving inline building so much as if everything that we do has to work with building in line with the streets on a grid, that lowers the amount of options for like what we can do when it comes to building shapes. So in order to get more interesting building shapes without having to make like a dozen more pieces like per shape, we're coming up with options to where you can basically have the houses sitting on the street / sidewalk tiles and stuff.
We're not totally abandoning it in my building though.
We're not abandoning it. We're just not using it as the design philosophy anymore.
Yeah,
like
it's also that we already made a bunch of the pieces like the streets and stuff, and we don't want to like redo it.
Yeah.
And especially since we've been going in like you know, surface layer option direction as well, that like since we already have those things, we don't necessarily need to redo it, but it's not like we're not gonna at all.
Yeah. It's not a thing where like you will still be able to use streets with the stuff in KS8. We just are not resigning ourselves to sticking to the grid shapes that streets established, because that lets us do a lot of other cool stuff too. So you might not be able to do everything in line that you would be able to do.
Yeah, and you can always build on, like put a layer of like sidewalks and then build it on top. But we also might do like things that like fill in the gaps. Like we're still early in development, so
yeah. But it's a thing we've been talking about too. It's also like partially why we're looking at like it's something you can do with a battle board, right? You can sit it on a battle board, and that's a cheap way to have this elevated to be in line with the streets, even though it doesn't have like a that way you can still have like your weird shaped corner on the building, but you just have it on the battle board to keep it in line, and like now you can still use that weird shape. So it increases the amount of options that we can do, basically. I think about the dry brushing stage. I'm very nervous about this. I want to do... Let's see. So I've got 2 here. And are these... Oh, whoops. I love the handles on these.
Yeah, me too.
So these 2 are from the new campaign, right, Jeff? Or are these older?
Those are from the last campaign.
Okay.
Kickstarter for the dry brushes, and then there's a new smaller one that I couldn't send a sample because I literally only have one right now. But there's a smaller one that just unlocked in the stretch goals that I'm going to add to the new campaign. And it's
Okay, I
much,
completely
much
understand that. Especially with like with our last Kickstarter, because of the how rough shipping was and everything, just due to the pandemic. We ended up just not having so much of the stuff that we were used to having for the Kickstarter. So we had to like make all this stuff in house and everything.
Yeah, so there you see the new size 0 dry brush next to the 1.
Oh wow.
So it's a big dramatic jump to a little tiny one.
Yeah,
but-
no kidding. Because I'm holding the one dry, yeah, the 1D.
Yeah. So this is just the 0, but it's much, much smaller.
Wow.
It's part of it I didn't, I guess, take into account that like I usually do my dry brushing kind of near the beginning stages of painting, and I didn't really take into account that, you know, later on you might want to dry brush something, and it's hard to not hit, you know, some of those surrounding details with my sizes. And people had mentioned that to me, so I just went ahead and worked on a smaller one for them.
So that's the thing, is like I'm still like new to a lot of this. So when it comes to like dry brushing, like I always thought that like the way I learned it, and maybe this is me not understanding what Hamster was telling me correctly, is that a dry brush is something you do at the end, basically, to hit like the raised edges and give it more depth. It's also very possible that's just one application of it, and I don't understand the rest.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
there's
it's
a lot
still
of
the
different
same-
types. Lot of ways you can use it.
I think right here I want to hit the bumpy textured parts with it.
What were you saying, Jeff?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say you're still doing the same thing of basically hitting all those raised edges, but a lot of times I don't know. I do that earlier on, and then I go on with a brush and try to maybe adjust some of it. But
I feel like I finally understood dry brushing when I did these pieces from Hellscape that have these like demonic runes in them. And so they're all like engraved in it. And so then I was like, oh, so I put the color I want in the runes here, and then I dry brush over the top to like hit the raised edges, and now like the runes are standing out, like, because I'm not hitting those, so now they're standing out like all bright and everything.
yeah, and especially like fur or feathers. Like this model I'm working on here, it'd be with the, you know, he's like a bird covered in feathers, and I probably could have just dry brushed him and got a lot of this much quicker, but I kind of like painting like this. So
Oh wow! I just looked at it. Wow.
Yeah, I'm making
That's
it
the first
big.
time I've
That
looked at
looks
it.
sweet.
Actually, that's really, you did all of this over the last hour.
yeah,
Awesome.
Whoa,
Wow! Look at that.
nice.
Oh man, I love the. Yeah, I love it. Well, it's not joints. Joints isn't the word, but I love how like the color on the wing feathers is like changes where it's joints are or whatever.
yeah, trying to figure out how to separate it so it's all just not one color.
Let me ask you this:
But
do you still use washes, or are washes a thing that only amateurs use at the beginning, like me, to cover up the mistakes?
he started with washes. I just washed the whole thing first before I did all this. I used
There's so much
Draken off
to understand.
Shade. I used Contrast Space Wolves Gray, and I used Red Black Secret Weapon. But yeah, so some of the shadows I was going back in with like that Dragonoth Nightshade, which is a dark blue, and like just putting it selectively into the areas that I want to be darker, basically where two body parts are touching each other. And then underneath, I had to keep that dark. So he was all washed, and then I've been picking out highlights. And then I've gone back in with washes to try to re-darken shadows.
At some point, I need to take that approach, because I've heard Hamster talk about doing like having taken like a similar approach to minis, and like that seems so foreign to me. I always like, oh, what color do you want to base it in, and then I'll prime it in black or white or sometimes something else if it seems right, and then like, what's the bottom layer, like what's the skin tone or whatever, and then I just kind of like color in the layers like going up, and then do washes and dry brushes on top of that to try and like make it look like it has dimensions to it. But like picking out like highlights and like that's such like a I can't wait to get to that level to like where I can start thinking like that, because I want to be able to make stuff that looks like that. That's wild.
There's when we were talking earlier about YouTube and like I can't remember who said it, but they like watching like more traditional stuff more than like recipe type videos
Huh.
for painting techniques. Somebody on the stream was saying, I can't remember which one of you guys, but there's a guy. There's two. One is Draw Mix Paint, is a YouTube channel, and his name is Mark Carter. He's the guy that actually did the presidential portrait for George W. Bush.
Oh wow.
So
wait, he's painting minis?
no, he's just doing oil painting. He's doing oil painting, but he's
Oh, okay.
I imagined the president in miniature when you said that.
I got to paint the president's 32 millimeter.
But the crazy thing about it is just imagine how much it would cost to take a class from that guy, or him be your mentor. But then he's doing free videos on YouTube, and you're getting typically better than a college level. I mean, it's way beyond what probably you would get in a college. And then he teaches you like color mixing and stuff. So I really like watching him because I did oil painting. And then also I'm gonna find him. I think his name is Marco Bucci. I'll find it and put it in the chat.
I'm curious if anybody here, like a lot of people that watch this are big hobbyists, and so they're always posting like links to YouTubers and stuff, and I really need to check out more of them at some point, but it's very overwhelming.
Yeah, I'm pulling.
Check out
clicking this for later.
go to,
Marco Bucci.
yeah, if you check out Marco Bucci, he has a series. It's like 10 minutes to better painting. He's a digital painter.
Oh yeah, I see
but
that.
there's a huge advantage of a digital painter doing tutorials for painting techniques because they can adjust things so quickly, as opposed to like physically having to repaint the entire area.
Yeah.
Huh.
So he does a lot of really good color theory and shadow and ambient light videos and stuff. So if you want to learn about some traditional painting technique stuff, I think he's a good choice.
I'll have to check that out.
Now, I recently tried to use oil paints on miniatures. Miniatures are really the only thing I've ever painted. And it was definitely a bit of a shock. Just how they behave and how I'm used to just like layering acrylics and I don't know. Have you used oils on miniatures before?
I've made like oil washes, but I've never tried to paint a
Oh,
miniature
sure.
in oils.
Sure.
But he's on Twitch, James Wapple.
Oh yeah.
He does a lot of his models in oil nowadays. And they're really cool to watch. He does the wet into wet, kind of like this style I'm doing here where it's just one model nonstop, working it.
Right.
I think he'd be probably your go-to guy if you wanted to learn oil painting on miniatures.
Cool.
But I have a lot of expensive oil paints I could probably use someday.
It seems like it'd be so runny.
Imagine with the oil paint, it's all about really, really thin, small layers of paint, or else it's going to take so long to dry.
Sure. Yeah, I think I was going on too thick. It was working against me a little bit.
Yeah, I think you'd have to really focus on just not having very much paint at all on your brush.
Nice. I'm pretty happy with this actually. There's like little lighter patches where the dirt's raised.
Oh, one quick thing on my Kickstarter, if anybody in the chat's on the fence about it, even if you just pledge $1, I do donate a paintbrush to the Phoenix Children's Hospital or organizations like that for every backer. So even if you just want to support with $1, it's still
Right.
going to go towards something.
Oh, that's great. I didn't even know that.
You're already donating like over 1,000 brushes, right? Like, how many?
Yeah, a couple thousand,
That's great.
like 30. Well, so because of COVID, I actually haven't been able to deliver them yet, but because they're not taking in-person donations at the hospital. But I got like 3,300 brushes for them from the last Kickstarter, ready to go.
Wow.
Just waiting till you're allowed to take it in.
Yeah, like actually visit the hospital. I mean, I don't see the kids or nothing, but just drop it off
Right.
for them, and just hope that they use them.
That's a really cool initiative,
Yeah.
man. And also just yeah, because like just the. Because I'm thinking about like what they would have there. They probably wouldn't have a lot of painting supplies. So getting like the chance to do some painting there. Do you
I
think any of them-
imagine they
do you
get
think-
like those watercolor sets that you've had when you were a kid. You know, that have
Oh,
like
yeah.
the 8 little
Oh
watercolors.
yeah, where you like
I
literally have to.
imagine that. Somebody's got to be donating that, I would think.
Man. Oh,
Hey, what color are birds' eyes?
what color are birds'
Anybody?
eyes?
Yeah, or chickens' eyes. Are they black?
I think they're just like black little beads, right?
That's what I'm thinking.
Where's Eli?
I mean, this guy is some sort of
Yeah, where
chicken
is
demon.
Eli?
Wait, this
Eli has-
chicken eye is like a orangey yellow with a big black pupil.
Yeah, now that I think about it, yeah.
Oh, so they actually do have a color to them?
Yeah. But they do
Alright.
have that like central like wide eye pupil going on, you know?
I've never looked a chicken in the eye before.
Yeah. Okay, so I
Oh.
googled chicken eye and the next
exact monster.
what's that?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was saying I
So
was
this
just
is the
saying
exact monster. Yeah.
I interrupted you again. I'm so sorry. What did you say, Jeff?
I was just saying that cockatrice is the exact monster you don't look in the eye because I think he turns you to stone.
Oh, right.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point. Because they're like related to basilisks, right?
I don't know.
It's like one of them is like if a chicken lays on a snake egg, like one of them hatches, and if a snake lays on a chicken egg, another one hatches, or something like that.
Wait, so are Medusas also related?
I don't want to get into the Medusas.
To chickens, yeah.
It's a weird family tree.
Yeah. Wait,
Man, that's a really cool initiative. Oh, I saw somebody say, or I don't know if you answered it in text or not. A while ago, somebody said they went for the all-in, the full set on your, which is actually the one that I backed that level as well. And they were asking like what stretch goals they get with that. Is it like all stretch goals go into that pledge, the $71 like all-in pledge, or whatever?
Yes. Yeah, all of them. The only ones that don't get all of them are just like the classic pledges, which are, it's just the original rounds and the original dry brushes. And those are, I made those pledges basically because while I'm waiting for the factory to make the new brushes, I can work on something and get those all shipped out.
That's fair.
So they don't get any of the new stuff, but all the other ones get all the new stuff. So you get the whole extra set. So, you know, if you get the one, if you pledge for one set, you get 2 sets, or pledge for 2, you get 3. Plus the extra dry brushes from the stretch goals.
Ooh.
I gotta say, you know, we were talking about these compared to the cheap synthetics, and normally, like, the first 5 minutes, the tip is just absolutely obliterated on my, on the cheap synthetic packs, but this is still got that nice pristine tip. I love that.
Yeah, they do last a pretty good amount of time. I mean, part of it, you know, can miniature painters tend to stab with paintbrushes,
Yeah,
like, and they're designed to pull paint,
sure.
so it's possible to destroy them, you know,
Yeah.
but they do hold up pretty well. I'll show you one here that's, people make fun of it on my stream, but I got my size 6 here, and like the lacquer's coming off. You can see the exposed wood. It's not as sharp as it once was, but still, it's kind of like my contrast paint or wash brush if I only want to wash a little area. And it still gets to a pretty sharp point. And people are like, oh, well, you know, it's not pretty and white anymore. And I'm like, well, it's like 3 years old.
Yeah.
And I paint with it almost every single miniature. I've used it, at least some part of it. So, yeah, I mean, they'll get damaged and destroyed, but they seem to be holding up quite a while for the price. They seem pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean that's quite a while to use one brush actually. Like I would not be upset about that.
Yeah, and it's still going. I purposely now use it for the worst, you know, painting bases and things that are really hard on brushes, especially if you want that brush to keep a tip. If you're like dragging it across gravel texture and stuff. But since it's my kind of go-to old beat-up brush, I just use it for all those tasks, and it's still holding up pretty well.
It put in all that time for you and you're rewarded by giving it the worst jobs.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's like a hero's funeral or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is there a way to pledge to get the old stuff early, but also the new when it comes?
No, not really. I mean, I do sell the originals on eBay. You could just buy a set, but they're at a better price on the Kickstarter. I tried to offer like a deal for it. So that way, I mean, if you ordered them off eBay, it would be literally shipped out tomorrow. I'll box them up tonight.
Yeah, I
but
imagine
if you have
with,
all, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I imagine it's just like a shipping nightmare to try and send them separately through the Kickstarter.
Yeah, and I don't use like a pledge manager, so I have to do it all myself. So it gets kind of complicated and confusing.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, you are a one-man operation, so I don't I don't think anybody can really blame you. It's wild to me that you do this by yourself.
Yeah, I have a guy who does the sculpting for like the add-on miniatures, or in this case, the paint pot holder this campaign, who I just messaged on Instagram. That's how I found him.
Huh. You just like liked his work and reached out?
Yeah, I was like, he does like all the movie characters in chibis.
Oh, cool.
Like, right now he's doing, I think, all the Jaws movie characters. He's done like Friday the 13th and Aliens and Predators and RoboCop, and he sells them all on Etsy. And I was just originally, I have him here. I just got the little chibi Voodoo Daddy. I broke, but
got another.
Oh, nice.
He's holding the paintbrush. My paintbrush broke, but yeah.
That's cool.
That's adorable.
Yeah, so and he's stabbing a voodoo doll with the paintbrush.
Oh, funny.
It's fantastic.
So I had him do that one, and then the second campaign, I asked him like, "Hey, have you ever done non-chibi?" And he did this troll for me. I wanted like a swamp troll with a crab claw.
Whoa.
Or like a crab.
Oh wow,
that's cool.
So
that's genuinely just a really cool mini.
yeah, and he just whips it out like in a couple days. It feels like on 3D printed stuff.
Dude,
And then he
so
did
cool.
So yeah, I just found him. So he helps with that. He does the printing and that, and the design. And then I have a buddy who has a nice camera who I set up little scenes for him to take photos with for my campaign photos. But if you look at my campaign photos, it's very, at least I think it is. I basically attribute or pay tribute to like the old masters, still life paintings and stuff. I have that. I hope to achieve that kind of feel of like you're looking at a painting or something, as opposed to just like a picture of the product. At least for some of the images.
That's awesome. Here, someone's wondering about the shape of the dry brushes. How did you decide on the shape, and how does it help their dry brushing?
So part of it, the shape actually adds to its durability.
Sure.
Because it's a hard process to be dragging the paintbrush across it. So this one you can see I've really beat up, and it starts to fan outward, but it still keeps kind of that same flatness across the top. Whereas if you look at maybe a different style where it fans away, it's really starting to peel all the way away. And then when you're actually dragging it, I feel like you get a more even dry brush, having a more uniform end to it as opposed to dry brushing with like a round style paintbrush.
Cool.
And then also just with samples, these were the ones that I like. I think in the future, I'll show you one here. It's beat up, but I think I'm going to do a big round brush like this guy here. This is like a crap
neat.
story.
Oh, wow.
But because it's beat up, it actually has become like a good wash brush for like bases and stuff. And I don't have one this big, so I might add something like that to the next campaign, like a big one.
Cool.
But I have to see maybe how my hairs respond to like being used at that size. You know, they might be too soft and maybe droopy.
Man, seeing those minis is like, I want that crab claw mini so bad. Like
yeah,
the
crab claw is
claw.
a great idea.
That seems like such a cool enemy to just throw at people because nobody'd be expecting that. That's so good.
I could send you one. You could PayPal me.
Nope.
I have a few extra.
If that's the case, man, yeah, I would love that. That'd be incredible.
Yeah, if you could message me on, well, anywhere, I guess, email or Kickstarter or something, I'd be able to do it because I have a few extra that I've been holding on to just in case people, got a broken one in the mail or something.
Yeah, I want to paint one of those real bad. So I'll reach out to you after the stream because I didn't realize that you did. I backed for the brushes. I didn't realize that you did like extra stuff on top of it. I back a lot of Kickstarters. I tend to not read the whole page just because if I try to actually keep up on all the information about everything, like I look at the Kickstarter and I read until I've decided that I like the product and then I'll just back it, and then I won't pay attention to it until it shows up on my door, basically. So I had no idea that there was even that pot holder on your desk is for this one.
Yeah, this is what I just decided to call it the Necro paint pot holder. And this holds all the GW style contrast and washes. And it holds it pretty tight.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there. But it could take quite a bit of a hit before it's really going to flip if you're using it.
About how wide is
And
that?
it comes in just 3D printed resin. You can paint your own.
How wide is the hole there? I'm trying to figure out if we could drop one of our pieces in there to like make like a cool.
If you have a GW style paint, it's almost exactly the size of all the GW paint.
Okay. That does look like a cool set. I saw somebody earlier was saying like, oh, they got to try to use it as a nest.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Oh yeah. If you just put like eggs in it.
I wonder if our
Oh
no,
no,
those are an oval shape, but probably that's a cool looking thing.
I bet. I mean it. So it's bigger than a 25 mil, but that's a 25 mil base guy in it.
Cool.
Okay.
We
can think of something to do with it.
That's
I'm sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that. You could use it as your little paint pot holder, or I guess
we just work with terrain so much that I looked at it and I'm like, that looks like a really cool piece of terrain.
Yeah, that's a guy. I didn't even think of that. I should have actually wish I thought of that so I could include like some kind of example how to use it like that in my images, but
we'll think of something, I'm sure.
Could be like a giant's like compost pile or something.
What's your target delivery date?
So on the pledge levels, I put like the order that things are going to ship. But I honestly think I'm going to be able to ship everything before November, or at least before the end of November. Last one,
Okay.
it took to about December, but last one was like 3,300 backers. And this one's only at 2,100, so that's like 1,000 less. So I think I could get it out pretty quick. Plus, all those classic pledges, which I don't know how many it is exactly, will be out in the next, month or two. So those ones I can get out of the way before I even have to work on the ones with all the new products.
Excellent. Man.
Yeah, maybe this year. And then also I found out last year if you pay a buddy some money to help you tape boxes, it goes much quicker.
Yeah, I can see
Nice.
that. If only because just having somebody else there, like having extra hands like to actually do the work is nice. But imagine like also having somebody there to keep you company while you're doing such a monotonous job probably makes it a lot easier.
Oh yeah, and especially when you're on like month 5 of taping boxes and counting brushes and stuff, and you're just like, oh my god. I've already listened to all the audiobooks in the world,
That's why being out of the office has been so has been so rough. Is yeah, I can do most of my work from home, but like being alone in the room doing that stuff compared to just being in the room with somebody else and we're both doing like stuff that isn't fun necessarily, but just like being able to like shout Space Jam at each other or something while we're working is nice.
Yeah, you actually mentioned earlier too with the streams, it helps you get some stuff painted. And I feel the exact same way on my YouTube. When I turn on the camera, I at least know for the next hour, 2 hours, I'm going to be putting paint on some models instead of looking for that next, YouTube video to listen to while I paint, or that, next podcast, or whatever the reason.
Well, that's where most of the inspiration for doing this show came from, was just the Hamster's got a gigantic pile of shame.
Yeah.
I've got some stuff from the Hellscape Kickstarter sitting there, and I'm gonna have like a bunch more stuff coming soon. I backed a lot on Bones 5, so theoretically in around a month and a half I'm suddenly gonna have a ton of minis that I need to get through. And having all this stuff sitting around, and it can be hard to get the motivation to just like get the stuff out and start painting sometimes, but just having a show where we have to get here and we have to paint has made it easier, because I like it when I'm doing it. It's just like the act of getting everything set up can be hard sometimes.
I really feel that opportunity cost, where when I'm, I have so many unpainted miniatures, so every miniature I'm painting, I'm not painting, a different one, and or if I'm not painting at all, then they're all sitting there like just seemingly like a waste of money,
That's the
So
worst.
I feel that.
That's the worst part, right? Is like the indecision about it. Like where you're looking at it, and you're like, you could like, I could be doing something else with that time instead. Like, should I be doing something else with that time? And so then instead of doing either of the things that you're thinking maybe you should do, you just end up doing none of them.
Yeah, I feel
Because you spend the whole time trying to figure out what you should do.
I feel that way too much.
Yeah. I think it's a fairly common thing when it comes to balancing like art and life. But it's a thing that we hear from like pretty much everybody that does painting for their stuff, is that they they don't paint nearly as much as they want to. And so the show's just kind of just been a way to try and get people to paint, which is cool. Like we all post like what we've worked on in like the Discord afterwards, and a lot of people that watch will be painting stuff along with us, and we'll have like projects that they work on over the course of a couple weeks here and stuff like that. Just trying to have like a hangout environment to paint things in. But man, how large is your pile of shame right now? Like how many things can you like look at where you're like, man, I really should have painted that by now?
Me?
Yeah.
I got Reaper Bones 5 coming too, and I don't need it. I got an entire resin halfling army from that Troll Trader Kickstarter, which I don't even know what I'm doing with that. I don't need a halfling army for anything. I've been painting painting them up and selling them on eBay as little D&D characters. I mean, it's got to be like thousands of miniatures.
Man, right now I don't have a ton, and so I'm doing fairly well. But that's because the reason I backed Bones 5 was so that I actually would have a big base of miniatures, so that in whatever games we're playing, whether it's home games or Dwarven Forge stuff, we just can go like, hey, we need a mini for this, and odds are I will then have it, or at least something that can function as it. But then I'm going to have literally hundreds of minis that I'm going to need to paint. So that'll be exciting.
You like get your friends, like if they're like, oh, I want to use that guy as my barbarian, and then you're like, oh, you gotta paint him.
Yeah, cool. you do it then. Yeah, I feel that. I do enjoy painting though. It's just, yeah, it's that anxiety over whether it's what you do with your time. But hey, it's technically part of my job, so you can write it all off, baby. Let's go. Yep. All I gotta do is use at least one of these minis in a Dwarven Forge game at some point every year. I can go like, yeah, buying these minis was for work. Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Isn't simply painting them on stream also?
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
also getting them on stream. Like that's also an extremely valid point. Any tabletop supplies are technically for the job at this point.
Yeah, I need to hire an accountant.
This is gonna be the toughest year for me to do taxes, just because this is when I started doing Dwarven Forge all the time. And also like it just being a crazy year on top of that. But I've always done my own taxes, but yeah, this year might be one where I might need help.
Yeah, my last Kickstarter was so big, I think I'm gonna need some assistance.
Well, just get a bunch of pizza, have your friends come over, and what's the worst that could happen?
No, I meant for taxes. I'm not having a bunch of friends come over to do my
For taxes. Right. You don't want to have your friends do your taxes?
Yeah. They're like, well, see you in jail.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll visit.
Well, yeah. Mastercon's got $5,000 of unpainted dwarves, $5,000 of unpainted marines, 2,000 unpainted Skaven. I assume it's dollars and not actual miniatures. If you genuinely have 5,000 unpainted
No, it might be points too, like
it could be
Warhammer points.
Yeah, that's true. I always forget that like a point system is a thing in wargaming.
Or if you have like if you have over 10,000 individual models, that'd be wild.
If he genuinely has 5,000 dwarves just sitting around. Okay, it is points. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense than having a dwarf full of 5,000.
For reference, a pretty like large, like standard, but on the large side is about, the 2K is about one army. 1.5 you could get a game with. That's a good size. So when they say they're talking 5,000 of that's like more than two. That's like 2 armies worth.
Wow.
Which is impressive.
That's a lot of minis. I guess you just get an airbrush at that point and just go to town.
Especially Skaven, which is a horde army. So 2,000 points of Skaven, I'm sure, is a lot more models than Marines.
2,000 Skaven is still like 200 to 300 models. Wow. I think wargaming sounds like an expensive hobby, man.
Yep.
Extremely space-consuming, money-consuming, and time-consuming hobby.
Oh yeah, I still have to put together like this big IKEA thing. I was like, I need a space for when I do finally paint some of these things.
That's one thing I'm looking at is, especially with Bones coming in, I'm starting to think more about, okay, now that I'm actually going to have a lot of tabletop supplies at my house, where am I putting this stuff? Should I actually like set up like an actual painting station that is like permanently in place to organize this stuff, so that I'm not getting my paints out of a crate on my bed all the time? Like, I see like some people in the Discord will like post their setups, and they have like these really nice organized desks with like rows of paints and brush holders and all that, and I'm like, my entire approach to this is so chaotic.
I got both. I got organizers and then piles of stuff spilling out of them.
Yeah.
So you made the effort, but didn't necessarily succeed.
Yeah. For the stream, I changed this piece of gray paper. I put a new one down for us.
Nice. See,
Oh.
that's just being a good guest, you know? It's just etiquette.
Yeah, I figured it would look better.
I keep my paint on the floor and crawl around the ground like an animal when I need it. Thank you, Commerce Demon. Yeah, Topulus is who I was thinking of when I was talking about having like the really orderly setup. We're talking about him being the
If only.
the orderly devil or something, organization devil.
On the topic of having a permanent setup, I think you should, because of just the productivity, like being able to sit down and start painting. You're more likely to do it than if you have to set up your paint station to then sit down and start painting.
Yeah, if I
That's a
get
good
rid of
point.
the setup and if I don't have setup and teardown time, like if all the time would actually be just painting, it'd be easier to just like work on stuff throughout the day and all that.
Yeah, and if you get into the habit of like, if you're trying to really get some stuff done, just do like one color a night. So if you have like 5 skeletons or something, you just, tonight I'm going to paint the silver. Tonight I'm going to paint the bone. And if you just do one color a night, you can get them done surprisingly pretty quick.
That's what I'm planning to do when I get into painting all my hellscape terrain, is just laying it all out, or at least laying it in batches, and then just going through step by step, doing the first step on every like lava bank, and then the second step and the third step, and just like moving along that way. Kind of making myself into a production line, more or less. Which, I don't know, I've got an empty room now, so I can set up... If I move my camera over there, I could potentially also... Maybe I'll move my computer into that room along with the painting stuff. We'll see. Make the hellscape batches small. That makes sense. I've heard that the hellscape is the most frustrating to paint of all of our stuff, which makes sense. So
Yeah, I suppose like getting some transparency over that clear yellow casting color might be definitely different from a lot of our stuff.
Yeah, from what I've been told, the issue with the hellscape like painting process is that the first couple steps feel like you're ruining the piece.
Oh,
And
the
then
white.
when you're doing the white, when you're doing like the white and the black steps, I heard that like those steps like make you like you're stressing out the whole time that like you did it wrong and it's actually going to look really bad. And then you get to the stuff after it and you're like, "Oh, no, this is actually all working out now."
Well, I'm pretty sure you can skip at least the white step if you don't have the light panels. That's mostly...
Yeah, 'cause the point is for the light panels to be able to shine through, right?
Yeah.
I think I'll still do it just to get that experience, though. At least on some of them. And also, who knows, maybe we will use the light panels. I'm not sure. We'll have access to them. They're at the office.
Topula says it looks worse and worse until the very end. Oh, no. God. I haven't opened my Hellscape either. Jeez.
So I've decided on my Froghemus color scheme. I'm going off of this poison tree frog that has blue legs and then an orange body with like black markings. So I'm very excited to try and pull this off.
That sounds sweet.
Yeah. So
He's sitting on top of my desk.
Who is?
Dunks on the desk.
Oh.
Yeah, look, this. Can you see
Oh,
it?
yeah, he's way up on his perch.
Yeah. Just sleeping there.
I wish my cat liked to be involved without being too involved. Like Dunk.
don't know. Dunk has his moments where he's like keeps walking around right here, and I get hair all over the clay.
Where is my cat? She's sleeping somewhere. Let's see. Oh, do that with Dwarven Forge. I do all the brown stones, then all the dark gray stones, then do the dry brushing, then do specific colors, then do the wash. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. With terrain specifically, because, you know, you're repeating a bunch of... You're hitting a bunch of the same thing across multiple pieces, it makes a lot of sense to do it in batches. Obviously, minis are different, but I mean, like, when I did, like, the Lemur pits, or the firewalls, like, you know, since I had multiples of them, those were all batched. Done, you know, one step first, and then the rest, and all that. I understand how to pull this off the way I think I do.
Well, we're about at our wrap-up time. How's the model coming, Jeff?
It already
Put
looks
you on the big screen. It looks
I think he's
amazing.
almost done.
That's great.
unreal.
Man, yeah, the wing transitions are so cool.
The wing transitions, and then just like the blending for like darker to lighter, like man.
Looks awesome.
But I didn't do like any wet blending or anything. I just kept tapping colors on. Yeah, so like I do a lot of highlighting with I call like a tap highlight. So I'll show you on my hand here, but I'll take a brush and then let's say I'm highlighting this. I don't know if you can see it, that bone
Yeah, yeah.
or that bone right there. And I'll tap it along the raised area.
Sure.
So just picture that, you know, smaller on. It's almost like cross hatching. So it looks a little blended, but your eye kind of fills in that texture.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah,
So you
well,
just so you just space out the taps further and further along.
Yeah, and then maybe do less and less taps, the lighter the color.
That makes sense.
yeah, I was doing a lot of tapping with some of your brushes for some texturing stuff on this guy.
Oh man. Dude.
Didn't not quite finished, but I was just trying to experiment with your stuff.
Oh yeah, that
So
looks great.
got some cool effects going. Yeah. So
So
man,
there's one thing oh, go ahead. Sorry.
well, I was just gonna say I love you have me sold on the white nylon. I kind of like that softer feel for some of this stuff.
Yeah, it has sort of that kind of Kalinsky sable like feel of it, kind of softly gliding over the miniature.
Yeah, I
or
like that a
bouncing
lot.
along.
I've never used that. That's great.
Yeah, there's definitely a different feel to them
Yeah.
than I'm used to. It does feel very nice.
Yeah, it's just, okay.
Go for it, Jeff.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, it just has that. I don't know, something about it being softer feels more accurate, like brushstroke wise. And...
Yeah. Yeah, like I've been using that golden Taclon. It kind of has that snappier, firmer sort of, which I guess is good for some stuff, but when I'm getting into the fiddly business, I really like the feel of these ones. Yeah, you heard me.
The fiddly business.
Well, I see at least one frog foot painted, Chris. How you doing over there?
Doing all right. Working on the second one. This is
Cool.
probably gonna be a 2-week project. I might leave it to do on stream next week.
Oh, cool.
I'm not sure yet. I can either do it on stream or I can just finish it tonight during Critical Role or something. Actually, no. I gotta do work as soon as the stream's over. But yeah.
Toby, how's the haunted house? Extra haunted?
Pretty good. Yeah, I've been working on the more of the floor, the wood texture and stuff.
Oh, you're
like
going
that.
inside now a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know if my camera's picking up like quality. Like
I can definitely see it. I see some of that wood grain.
Yeah, I did one that's like floor tiles busted. I'll probably go back and just bust up more floor tiles. But we're just trying to get a bunch of the wood grain done,
Yeah.
so I can focus on more of like ruining things more.
Ruining it, the destruction.
Yeah. Eventually, I want to do like moss and grass and like plant life on the outside, like just growing on it.
Sure.
And other things.
Awesome. Well, so we made a command for the GhosTiny Kickstarter, right?
Yes. Type in !GhosTiny, and it should link to the Kickstarter.
Awesome. So there's the link. I know I saw at least one person say they were sold on the dry brush shape explanation. Again, I think he said it, that these are synthetics that feel a lot closer to the nice natural hair brushes that are, you know, absurdly expensive, but they're softer material. I'm definitely going to get some of these as well because of that. So definitely check out the Kickstarter. You can see the paint pot holder with the skulls. That's a part of the Kickstarter. And let's see. This looks like one of his videos, huh, Chris? Oh, Jeff's YouTube channel.
I'm linking his YouTube channel as well, because you do a lot of live streaming over on YouTube, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So follow him there at that link, RedBeardBoss. Look out for his streams. The Kickstarter, am I right that it's the last 48 hours?
We have 29 hours to go.
29 hours. So click that link, check it out, and remember, even if you donate just $1, he'll donate a brush to a children's hospital in the Phoenix area. So it's worth it to give it a click and even just donate $1. It was really fun talking art with you and talking the brushes with you, Jeff. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I love talking about art.
Yeah,
With
could do
art
it all
nerds.
day. That's what's so great about
Yeah.
this show is like just the casual conversation, and we just talk about what we're enthusiastic about. I love it.
Yeah. Even though sometimes we get like entranced in the painting and forget to talk for a bit.
Yeah. Definitely, I'm guilty of that. So, what do we got coming up on stream next, Chris?
Next week, we got another On the Anvil and then another Hobby Hang. On the Anvil on Wednesday. We're actually not sure what we're talking about yet. We've got a bunch of shows that we want to do. We're just figuring out what order to put them in and all that. And then next Thursday's Hobby Hang. I don't think we don't have a guest slotted, but we want to do some more guest episodes. And so I've got a list of people to reach out to, and I'm hoping that will work out. What's up?
Hamster, do you want to be a guest on Hobby Hang?
I think I might come on the Hobby Hang. I'm thinking about it.
Nice.
It's a pretty cool place.
Yeah.
That's a good get. That's a good get.
Cool. Well, look out for those streams. Please take a look at Jeff's Kickstarter, GhosTiny Brushes, last 29 hours. Check out his YouTube. And thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.